everyone. Welcome to Los Angeles, California. Welcome to the Late Late Show. I'm your host, TV's Craig Ferguson. Please sit down and relax. It's going to be a bit different tonight. A bit of a different show. My father, Robert Ferguson, died on Sunday. And I was in Scotland last week, and I said goodbye. So tonight, it may not be a flowing or accomplished piece of television that you're going to see, but I don't care. And I want to tell you, if I get weepy and I don't want any slow camera zooming in and music and stuff like that, you don't need to manufacture the drama. My heart's broken, my father's dead, that's enough. Now listen, I pride myself on being honest when I come out and do this. I feel the deal I've made with you over the time I've been here that I come out and talk about what's on my mind. And if I didn't do this, it would be shameful. So I've got to talk about this tonight. I didn't feel right, you know, coming out and doing my usual complaining about Starbucks, you know, and there's... But I'll be back on them tomorrow night, you know, you know, the half-assed impression of Sean Connery will be back tomorrow. Michael Caine will be back in space. There'll be frisky ponies and cheeky monkeys and emails and the rest of that nonsense. That'll be tomorrow night. But, and tonight will not, it won't all be somber. My father was 75 years old. He lived a very full life. He did everything that he set out to do. And it's not going to be we're not going to be sitting shiva all week with this. We're doing this once tonight and we're saying goodbye. Where I come from, there's in the Celtic tradition, it's kind of a wake. What we do is we talk about a person's life. There's a lot of drinking usually. I won't be doing that. I think others may get involved in that, but well, for other obvious reasons, I don't do that. But we tell favourite stories about the person that's passed, and we. They're not always very flattering for that person either. It's not. It's kind of a roast sometimes. It's a celebration of a human being with faults and quirks and all the idiosyncrasies that go with being a person. And my father was certainly that. My father was born on St. Patrick's Day in 1930, which was a source of great pride to his Irish Catholic mother, and some consternation to his Scottish Protestant father, I have to tell you. And he grew up he was from a poor background. He grew up in Glasgow, in Scotland, during World War II. And Glasgow was bombed heavily during the war, and all the kids were evacuated out of the cities and put to work on the farms in the countryside to escape the German bombing. And it was supposed to be some kind of idyllic reprieve, but my father's experience was more like a Dickensian workhouse. It didn't really work out well for him. And I know it was very tough for him, and he didn't talk a lot about it, but it was 6 years when he was there that it was just awful. And he had a very tough childhood, and from where he started to where he ended up was a journey so incredible and vast. It's too much for me to hope to emulate. My father spent 2 years in the British Army stationed in Germany. He worked in the post office in Scotland for 44 years. He started as a telegram boy, delivering telegrams on ex-army, Norton ex-army bikes, where you change the gear by taking your hand off the handlebars. It's called the suicide shift. You know, they were too poor to emulate Marlon Brando in The Wild One with the silk scarves, so they used to wear white tea towels to look like Americans. I've lived in America 11 years. I've never seen anybody wearing a white tea towel. But I'm still looking. Anyway, by the time my dad retired, he had about 600 men working for him at the Edinburgh post office in the capital of Scotland. He was the chief inspector and he was the boss, and he went all the way up, and he did it through hard work. He was a Scottish nationalist, my father. He believed in an independent Scotland. He also believed in this place. He believed in America. And he believed in the opportunity it offered. My father introduced me to America. Literally, he brought me here when I was 13, just me and him. We went to, used to get cheap airfares from Freddie Laker, and I think it was like $100 or something. And we came over and we visited my father's brother, my Uncle James, who had moved to Long Island. And And I've talked here and I've talked lyrically often about the summer I spent there as a teenager at 13 years old. And I talked to my father about it recently and he said, where did you get the idea I get the whole summer off work? We were there 3 weeks. But in my mind, it was a life-changing experience. I fell in love with America then. I decided then to come back. And my father, thanks. My father believed in hard work, and I believe that's how my father expressed love. There's something spiritual in hard work. I think spirituality is not all about aromatherapy and scented candles. I think for my dad it was about getting up early and working hard and making a better life for his kids, and that's what this man did. Every Christmas in the post office there was something called the pressure. It's when the mail started to build up and more mail, and all the postal workers were, working 12-hour shifts all the time. It was crazy amount of work they were doing. And now I think it's called going postal. Then it was called... And he worked his ass off the whole month of December, but every Christmas morning he would wake up with me and my brother and my sisters and help put the presents together. He must have been bone tired, but he did it, and he never mentioned how tired he was. But I think he must have been tired. My father also, he was in charge of postal workers. These are postal workers in Glasgow. They were tough men. They're not, not guys who say, I'm lactose intolerant, can we get soy in the cafeteria? They weren't guys like that. And my dad he's a big man, my father, and he had a buzz cut, he made him look like he had a scrubbing brush, it made him look like that. And that was his nickname, he was called Big Scrubber. And the postal workers used to see me, you big scrubbers boy, And so I would say, I'm little scrubber, I'm wee scrubber. But I could never really live up to that. When I was broke, my dad gave me a job as a temporary worker in the post office. It was in December, and it was back in the day when I was still drinking, and I got drunk, and I was an hour late for work, and my father was the boss. And I showed up at 5 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. It was, and another worker told me, your father knows you were late, and he's got a special assignment for you. And what he did was he sent me to Glasgow Airport to load mailbags onto the planes in December, and I've never been so cold in my life. And remember, Glasgow's on the same latitude as Moscow, and I had a terrible hangover. I was late because I'd been drunk. But I was never late for work again, I'll tell you that.